Special guest in conversation this week. Last time she was in, 2011. Neither of us can believe it. I mean, seriously, I thought it was only a few years ago, but 2011 was the last time she was in. Since then, she's been with Take That, she's been with Prince, she's been on the stage. I didn't realise, actually, I'd completely forgotten that her musical career started on the stage in 2013. You'd think she's been doing it for donkey's years. She's back at the Dominion, she's back in The Bodyguard, she's working with that really unattractive man called Ben Richards. I mean, to be honest with you, what's ever happened to his career, I ask myself. Beverley Knight has an album out as well, which came out a couple of months ago, and there's a single taken from it, which is with the fabulous Jamie Cullum. I'm terribly impressed by that. Beverley Knight, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Steve. How are you?
I'm all right.
Good.
The only reason that I invited you back in is because, A, I thought the album was great, and secondly, because Private Number was Judy Clay and William Bell. And
That's
that
was
my favourite song,
Oh,
because I came from the Stax era. And it was a Stax record, I believe.
It's a Stax record.
Yeah.
It is. William Bell was writing so much for Stax. And then, you know, we hear his beautiful vocals with Judy Clay, and I've always loved that song as well.
Great
it's
song,
just
isn't it?
such a great song. And so I thought, I'll borrow that from the Memphis songbook, put it on my album. And
Memphis.
Yeah.
Memphis. Now, there's a studio. In fact, one of the best albums I thought that came out was Dusty in Memphis.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Dusty Springfield's album, I think, goes down as being fairly legendary.
Yes, it is.
In terms of singing.
Completely.
And the studio is also legendary, isn't it, over there?
Yeah, I mean, the Stax recording studio it's still there, but it's more like it's part of the museum of Stax. So you go there and it's got all the memorabilia, photos, discs, platinum, diamond discs, you know, all of that. It's got Isaac Hayes' car, which is gold-plated rims, which spins around on a platform.
Oh, wow.
It's got, you know, lots of outfits and things which different artists wore, and
the outfits were the best
amazing.
things. I just loved,
incredible.
I just used to love all the outfits. But I've asked people over the years, because I believe that somebody has got all the Jackson 5 outfits.
Really?
From over the years. They were in a warehouse somewhere. The Osmonds lost all their stuff. Nothing from their early days exists at all.
Okay.
But the Jacksons, a lot of the stuff still exists. It's in this warehouse, and every so often somebody will sell a little bit more off, because I always used to think, I remember talking to Gladys Knight.
Oh, as you do.
As you do. And she was telling me about the recording sessions in the studio, where people would be in a room this size, and you'd have all the horn section in, you'd have everybody else in, Michael would be sitting outside, she'd be inside, I used to bring him sandwiches and all this kind of thing. And you think, I want to have been there.
Exactly.
I wanted to go to these recording sessions.
Well, this is when I walked into Stax, the museum, and then they've got Studio A set up exactly as it was, with all the instruments and everything. And you just close your eyes and think what it must have been like to be here when this was operational and people were actually recording here. It must have been a phenomenal time. I mean, I was just 10 minutes down the road at Royal Studios, where Al Green was, and High Records.
The Reverend Al.
Absolutely, Reverend Al.
But it's amazing, all these, you know, black artists who really stamped their mark. I mean, I noticed that you were a fan of Sam Cooke.
Yeah.
Well, that was about one of the first albums that I bought, because a friend of mine used to have a mobile disco, and he used to play Another Saturday Night by Sam Cooke, who died tragically young. Tragically young.
Terribly young.
Yeah. But I had this huge double gatefold album of Sam Cooke with a really super picture on the front of him, and then all these just great tracks, and you borrowed from that as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was the first recorded voice I ever heard.
Really?
I must have been, 3, 4, something. Mum and Dad used to play Sam Cooke every Sunday. Get home from church, Sam Cooke goes on in the front room, and, you know, Dad would put it on the record player, and I'd just stand there and I wouldn't move. Mum calling me for dinner? No, I can't move, because Sam Cooke is singing to me, little me, and I was just completely mesmerised by him.
Yeah.
And
beautiful man.
Absolutely beautiful man, beautiful voice, incredible songwriter, brilliant entrepreneur as well. Wanted to actually do his own thing, publishing and record label, and then just cut down so horribly.
Yes.
And you know, what was it, 63? I mean, It's heartbreaking when you think about it.
It is when you think
What
how
a
many
legacy.
people we've lost over the years who've contributed so much
Yes.
to music, because you worked with Prince, and then you went over to the Grammys,
I went over. It was the Oscars.
the Oscars. So,
The Oscars in, but it's the same kind of time of year. So it was the Oscars. I got this phone call, and
Like you do.
and it was. I thought it was a wind up. I had this phone call. Hi, this is Kathy. I'm calling from Prince's office. I need you to come to LA. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, thinking it's wind up. So I was like, oh yeah. But then she called back once, insisting I come to LA that weekend. So I did, dutifully. Didn't know why I was going. It turned out that Prince wanted me to sing at his Oscars party. So there I was.
so you did.
With the great and good of Hollywood, and the Coen brothers with their Oscars in their hand. They'd just won it for No Country for Old Men, and various other people.
Quincy Jones.
Yeah,
Alpha.
exactly. I mean, I was like, how am I here? I'm this kid from Wolverhampton. How am I here?
I'm just this little kid from Wolverhampton.
Exactly.
I used to sort of. You're a church girl, but then again, lots of people were church people. They went
how it
to
came
church.
through.
That's how it
Yeah.
came through. And
Yeah.
so you learnt to sing at an early age because you sang, and everybody sings. It's like going to Wales. Everybody seems to sing in Wales. You don't think everybody sings in Wolverhampton.
No.
But if you
Oh,
went
they
to
definitely
church,
don't.
They definitely don't.
No.
But then you obviously grew up listening to gospel and stuff
Yes,
like
I
that.
did. Yeah. So in addition to Sam Cooke's gospel recordings, and he's discovered his pop like years later.
Yeah.
I always thought of him as a gospel artist, but it was people like Mahalia Jackson,
Yes.
legendary, of course, and then people who maybe the wider public wouldn't know. The Winans family, and a great songwriter called Andre Crouch, and so a lot of kind of, real gospel, black, if you like, gospel artists, and I grew up with that. And then coupled with nicking my mum and dad's radio out of their room all the time, putting it in my room, I was listening to whatever else came through on the radio. And of course, back then it wasn't so splintered.
No.
So most radio stations played a huge variety of music. So my little mind was infused with all kinds of sounds. Yeah.
I can remember watching Diana Ross in Lady Sings the Blues, which was Billie Holiday's
Amazing.
career. And again,
Yeah.
that then made you want to learn about Billie Holiday and the
course.
life she had,
Yeah.
and the drugs and all the rest of it. But that made her the person and gave her the voice. And I think one of my God Bless the Child, I think, was one of my favourite songs.
Stunning.
Just a good smoky voice. And then there was Marvin Gaye, whenever
Yeah.
he was in. And then you sort of
There's
think,
another troubled one.
another troubled one. It happens a lot, doesn't it? And I don't know whether or not it's sort of people get the pressure, because in the early days of Motown and Stax and all the soul artists, and it was a different setup. People went in, people recorded, some people became successful, some
Yeah,
people didn't, some people
that's right.
featured on other people's tracks and things like, which is what you've done with your album. You've quite cleverly taken other people. You took Jules Holland, didn't you?
Jules. I have to take Jules.
Doesn't get any better, does it?
Well, I've known Jules forever, and he really understands the history of the music that I was kind of going into, with Memphis, and he really gets the blues. I mean, he really comes from that, with the boogie woogie and everything. So I knew Jules would be a great fit for the album, and so getting him involved on Hound Dog was just a joy. So
It's quite
he
nice when
loved
you
it.
can pick and choose and call on your mates and pick up the phone and go,
Completely.
listen, I'm doing this. And of course, because all of you are musicians,
Yes.
it's not like, you've been on the X Factor and things like that, which is my big hate, as everybody knows.
Yeah.
Because
Mine too.
I sort of think it's giving people false sense. There are people in the business, you sing, that's what you do. You're not a manufactured act, you sing, and it's easy for you, I should imagine. You don't have to think about it. These kids go on television, they don't see that side of it. They want to be famous. Mm-hmm. And being famous is different.
Being famous and being a recording artist, being a singer-songwriter is two different
Yes.
universes.
Worlds, completely separate.
There's so people can be famous for whatever reason. We have very famous American family who are famous
So rich.
and loaded
What?
from being famous. But what do they actually do? I'm not quite sure, but they're famous and they're absolutely loaded. And and that's them and that's their world. But what I do, it means that fame becomes a byproduct. It's not the end in itself. It's just a byproduct of what you do, if enough people care about what you do and invest in what you do. And that's all it is. So, and that's how I see it. So it's how you stay sane, I think.
I think you have to be in this business grounded. I think it's too easy to take people, and I've seen it happen before with sort of groups where they've had a couple of hit singles, then all of a sudden the public just kind of, I think with Will Young, his record company drop him, which, occupational hazard, that's how it goes in the business.
All the time.
Yeah, if you don't do the promotion, and sometimes people just they don't feel the need to do it, and they don't have to do it, but if they don't and they get dropped, then they've got to pick themselves up and start all over again.
Yeah.
And it's a tough business, but it's the fame aspect. That's what people are craving. You turn on Big Brother and you've got people you've never heard of using language you don't expect. Your parents would turn in their graves if they heard it. And you look at me and think, but what is it you can do? And the answer is they cannot do anything. They don't sing, they don't dance, they don't juggle, they don't tell jokes, they're not in show business, they haven't lived.
We live and we have been living in a period where the cult of celebrity is crazy, and this word celebrity, I mean, when I think of the word celebrity, I think of those old programs like Celebrity Squares, which I remember watching as a kid just having a good laugh, and but I thought, okay, that's what a celebrity is, but a singer and a performer is something else. That's what I thought, at least. But now everybody who has a modicum of fame or anything is a celebrity. Yes. So when I read about myself in a newspaper, it say, and celebrities like Beverley Knight, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I think, am I a celebrity? I'm sure I'm a singer. I'm sure I'm a singer, now actress. I just never saw myself as a celeb. I do what I do. It's my job. I absolutely love it. And because life has been good to me, it's afforded me to have the kind of lifestyle that I enjoy. But I never still see myself as a celeb.
Well, for the purposes of this programme, you are. So there you go.
Yes,
so we'll take a very quick break and more from celebrity star Beverley Knight after this. Beverley Knight and Jamie Cullum and Private Number, which is on the album, which is now out as the single. Beverley Knight is with us for In Conversation. I love that track, I really do. I love Jamie Cullum, I can't tell you. I think he's
wonderful, isn't he?
He's such a nice person.
He is.
I've only ever interviewed him once, but I remember sitting there going, it's Jamie Cullum. He's really nice.
He's really
nice,
a nice
isn't
guy.
he? He's such a nice guy. And again,
Really
he's sort of passionate about what he does. He does music.
He is a musician, unequivocally, and it's in his bones,
Yes.
And that comes out every time you see him, anytime he plays, even if it's just a little snippet of him, you get a real sense of you're looking at someone who is completely immersed in what they do, and it's wonderful.
I'd love to be able to play a musical instrument. I'm so jealous of people who can just sit down at a keyboard and just and you think, how do you do that? I was watching an orchestra the other day from, I think, Bratislava. They were all young people.
Yeah.
But they were quite clearly all dedicated musical students. And they were brilliant.
Wonderful.
I mean, they were so good. You think you could rival with any orchestra at all. And here they are playing stuff. And you think, God, that's dedication. And you have to apply yourself in this business. Nobody's ever going to give you anything for nothing. They might use you in this business and promise you the earth. But, take our advice. You really have to look at it carefully. It's not all green and loads of money pouring in the windows. It doesn't work like that.
Oh, my God,
you
no.
sweat for this.
Yeah.
And Beverley sweated for a long... I mean, from 13, she was writing songs and trying to get stuff right and finding her feet, finding... what her direction was, because you don't know at that age.
I had no idea. I just knew I had this thing in me. I needed to sing, I needed to express, I needed to write, I needed to be on a stage and perform. I was absolutely a performer, precocious as you like, That was me.
Were you terrible?
I would stand on anything, and that would be my stage.
Really?
And anything that would resemble a microphone, that was my mic, and off I'd go. And whether there was no one watching or everyone, room full of mum and dad's friends watching, I was going to perform. Yeah. That was me. I was that kid. And then I'd just scramble onto the piano and find my way around it and try and find how to write songs, based on what I was hearing on the radio. And did that for years, eventually kind of got my head around it a bit, and then I started my career, and I was, 21 when I started, so it's a long time ago now.
Well, you're looking good on it. You're looking good on it.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
But it's true, though. I mean, there's something about going out and performing. That's what performers want to do. So when you see people on the X Factor or Britain's Got Talent, they don't really know what it's like to get ready for a show. You can hear the buzz of the audience. If you're lucky enough to pull an audience, you've got to pull an audience.
That's the other thing.
No good just sticking somebody's name up above it and then hoping the audience are going to walk in.
This is the thing. I remember some of my very early performances when nobody knew who I was from a tree, and you'd walk in, and it was, you're talking pubs and clubs, which were the traditional ways of trying to get a following and that. You'd walk in, and there might be 10 people there, and a dog.
And you've still got to work.
You better get up there and you better give those 10 people and that dog the best performance they've ever seen.
Yes. You have to pretend the place is packed to the rafters and it's Carnegie Hall.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you give them what, you would give absolutely a room full, that's what you do. Yeah. And you do it, and in those moments you perfect your craft, you hone your craft, you get it right, so that when you are faced with one day Carnegie Hall, or the Royal Albert Hall in my case,
wherever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You do know what you're doing, and any little eventuality, anything that goes slightly awry, maybe your mic dies a death in the middle of a song or something happens, you know what to do because you remember you did that, at the Dog and Duck 20 years ago.
That's right, yes.
There you go. Yeah. So there's a lot to be said for, as Americans say, paying your dues and working up to a level.
You have to do the groundwork, which, as you say, is like wrapping a parcel. You're doing a wall. You meticulously strip it so it's perfect, and then whatever you put on the top is going to look even better.
It's going to be perfect because what I do feel real pity for kids who come up suddenly and their first audience is something huge like the O2 or Wembley. And I think, if Wembley's your first gig, whoa,
you're going to be in for a hell of a shock.
This is, Yes. You have to maintain Wembley your entire career, or anything after that, if it's not at that standard, is going to be awful for you. And I don't know, that must play hell psychologically on someone's mind.
They go, we haven't actually got any work at the moment, but we've got you a small part in a pantomime in Bridlington. And you get there and it's a windswept Friday and there's a bedraggled group of people waiting outside, and you go, this is showbiz. But it should have been done the other way round. You should have done Bridlington first before you work up, because when you did take that, you must have realised what it was like with a big show on the road.
That was the first time when we hit the stadiums. That was the first time I'd ever done a stadium tour. And of course it wasn't me, it was the lads. So I was there to support, and then, very generously, the lads asked me if I'd be part of their main show. I had done arenas before, again, as a support act to people like Bryan Adams and what have you, which was wonderful, but stadium is a whole different ball
game. Like a city on the move, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. I can remember way back when Capital used to do Party in the Park, and it was akin to that kind of thing. But of course, that would be me going on 2 songs, see you later, I'm off. But this is a proper show. And you pull on every single bit of experience you've got to know how to capture 80,000 people in one go. Otherwise you could go on that stage, stand there and go,
and you've got to get used to the sound.
The sound's completely different.
Nobody prepares you. If you're a singer on the X Factor or whatever it happens to be, and you go out there, you've got to learn about foldback speakers. Yes. Sometimes there might not be foldback singers. Mm-hmm. You've got to keep going. You've got to trust the sound man to make sure that you sound as good as you can. If the microphone dies, as you say, you've got to go, died. Another microphone. All right, great. And carry on.
Absolutely.
You've got all these things
and these things
learn.
have to come automatically. You can't have that moment of panic freeze, oh my God, because the audience don't care about panic freeze and oh my God.
But it is true when you
yes.
see. And I remember I spoke to a lady once, Jo Wood, about touring with the Stones, and she said it's enormous. She said it's like a huge restaurant arrives because they're feeding like 300 people.
That's right.
She said, and you're just part of it. And the show rolls into town, and there's all the army of people who put the speakers up, the lighting rig goes up, the stage mechanics are there, all the bits and pieces that go for the show. And you look at it and you go, this is for us.
Yeah. And I tell you what,
fantastic.
You really learn to appreciate the jobs that people do, because the showbiz isn't just the people who are directly in front of the camera, you know, or the people you see on that stage front and centre. It's everybody else. If my monitor engineer who looks after my sound on stage has any kind of issue, that directly affects all of us on stage. So you want to make sure he's okay. You want to make sure the guy who does the lighting is okay, because if you're supposed to be lit at one point and you're in darkness, that's not going to look good on the show. So every single person plays their part, from the person who is the drum tech, who sets up the drum kit for you and breaks it down at the end of the night. Any little thing goes wrong with that and the drummer's got a problem, the whole show's got a problem. So no one is insignificant. Everybody is really important, and you make sure you look after everyone, because they are equally as important as the person who is front and centre.
And believe you me, if you start dissing them, they'll be spreading the word.
Oh yes.
They did. Oh yes. You should always be nice to everybody who works on shows, because you'll meet them on the way up, you'll meet them on the way down.
Guaranteed.
And they'll be talking about you. It costs nothing to be nice in this business. Nobody likes the clever clogs.
It's
true.
true.
I have to be nice to the producer, so that's the way it goes. You have to be. I don't want to be, but you have to be. But it's true, though, isn't it? Because it's a team effort. And the happier everybody is, you'd hate somebody to be working with you who didn't want to work with you.
Oh, my God.
That would be a terrible thing.
How awful.
That would be dreadful.
How awful. I tell you, that principle has never been more true than when you go into theatre. Now that's team effort. If it doesn't matter whose name's on the door, that is a team effort. Yes. You have absolutely got to work as one unit, because things really can go wrong if any one given person is having a bad day or has an accident or isn't well, and the way you see everybody have to kind of the camaraderie, when someone's not well and they suddenly have to go off, and then everybody else has to carry on.
Does happen.
It happens all the time. Yeah. And I just think to myself, wow, that is a real learning curve of people who are there for the love and are willing to graft every night. That's oh wow. Now that's work.
And of course, the other thing is that you've got to remember is people go, I think I'll stamp my own mark on it. Some of these shows are set in tablets of stone. They've done it before. They know what they're doing. They know what works. I remember they did some auditions years and years ago for Phantom of the Opera. They were casting a new Phantom, and they invited one of the papers down. I think it might have been the Sunday Times, who went there, and the person who was cast in playing the Phantom kept saying, I'd quite like to do it this way. And the director said, no, we do it this way, because this is the way it works.
Yes.
And then he was quoted as saying, we're going to have trouble here.
Oh, my God.
Because there's a way of doing it. In The Bodyguard, everybody's got to do their job, and that's when it all comes together.
Yes.
And that's when it's perfection.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's really interesting, because being someone who is a newbie in theatre, absolutely. 3 years is nothing, But people have been doing it 30, 40
Ask Elaine
years.
Page,
Oh, there you go.
100 years and still going.
Still magnificent. I knew that, okay, I can sing, I can act. Yes, I'm being whipped into shape for dancing. But there was a vision for the show that the director, Thea Sharrock, had, and working closely with her meant that I had to rely on her for where she wanted the character to go. Of course, I had little ideas of vocally, we could do this or we could do that. But by and large, they know what they're doing. So you can't come in as the big I am and say, I've got this, I know what I'm doing. No, you come in and you work as a
You
team.
give yourselves to them. You go, listen, here I am. You tell me what you want me to do.
What would you like?
Yeah.
And let's make this the best that you can. And you know, again, learning from Ben as well, who has done theatre loads of times, and TV, knows what he's doing, and working together, you know, and especially when it's fun.
It's fun. It's supposed to be fun.
Great fun.
You know, it might be tough and it might be sort of exhausting and you might go home with your feet aching and your throat a bit sore, but it's fun. Somebody's paying you.
Completely.
For enjoying
to be
yourself.
on that stage. And when you hear the roar of the crowd at the end, your feet could be
you
like,
could just lift off, couldn't you? You could just take off.
You really could.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how shattered you feel, the audience will give you everything.
She's nearly given everything today. There's a new album out. Go and check it out. It's got some super tracks from Beverley Knight. And The Bodyguard's only in for a short time. 6 months, I think, is very short time, as always. See you about another 5 years, shall we? I wonder what we'll be doing in 5 years' time.
I wonder. Well, I could never have... 5 years ago, do you think I'd be here talking about The Bodyguard? Who knew?
No, who knew?
Who knew?
Well, we know now. Beverley, thank you, as always.
Pleasure.
Well, certainly, I mean, last week's show with Erin Caffey, a 16-year-old girl who masterminded the mass murder of almost her entire family, very chilling, and she certainly wouldn't fit the bill of your traditional idea of what a murderer should be. But then what is that? There are so few women...